Theodore Roosevelt once famously said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." This phrase has long been interpreted as a powerful piece of advice about wielding power with quiet confidence. But take a look around many modern workplaces, and you'll notice a curious, almost opposite pattern emerging. The people who get noticed, the ones who seem to be climbing the ladder, aren't always the ones with the biggest stick, so to speak. They aren't always the ones doing the most work or delivering the most groundbreaking results. Instead, they are often the ones speaking the most about the work. For many dedicated, hardworking employees, this can feel incredibly confusing and even unfair. You put your head down, you focus on your tasks, you deliver high-quality work, and yet it feels like the recognition, the promotions, and the opportunities are going to someone else, someone who seems to spend more time in meetings talking than at their desk working. This disconnect between effort and recognition isn't just in your head. It's a real phenomenon, and understanding it is key to navigating your career. Most of us start our professional lives with a simple, almost romantic assumption. We believe in a meritocracy. The logic feels sound. If I do my job well, if I consistently deliver excellent results, and if I am a reliable team member, then recognition, raises, and promotions will naturally follow. And to be fair, sometimes they do. In a perfect world, this would be the unbreakable rule. But large organizations and corporate environments are rarely perfect worlds. They are complex human systems. And in these systems, another factor plays an outsized role, one that we often underestimate: visibility. Think about it from a manager's or a senior leader's perspective. They are responsible for overseeing the work of many people, sometimes dozens or even hundreds. It is physically impossible for them to observe every single task being completed, every problem being solved, and every small victory being achieved. They simply don't have the bandwidth. So, how do they gauge performance and identify talent? They rely on signals. These signals are the pieces of information that cut through the noise and reach their desks. Who is regularly communicating their progress? Who is the one explaining complex ideas clearly in a team meeting? Who volunteers to present the group's findings? Who sends the follow-up email summarizing the key decisions? These actions, these communication signals, become proxies for competence and leadership. It's not that the actual work doesn't matter. It's that the work needs a voice. And the person who provides that voice often gets the credit. So why does simply speaking up have such a dramatic effect on how we are perceived? It taps into some fundamental aspects of human psychology. In any group setting, whether it's a team meeting or a social gathering, our brains naturally gravitate toward the voices we hear most often. This isn't because those voices are inherently wiser, more correct, or more insightful. It's because of a principle called the mere exposure effect. The more we are exposed to something, or in this case, someone, the more familiar they become, and the more we tend to prefer them. When a colleague consistently shares updates, offers opinions, and asks questions, they are essentially training the brains of everyone in the room to associate them with the project. Their voice becomes the soundtrack to the work's progress. They create a mental link between themselves and the team's achievements. So when a leader later thinks, who was really driving that initiative forward? The name that comes to mind isn't necessarily the person who spent 40 hours coding in solitude, but the person whose voice they heard explaining the project's status every week. This isn't a malicious plot. It's just the natural way human attention and memory function. What is heard frequently becomes what is remembered easily. This brings us to what I call the visibility gap. This is the canyon that separates quiet, hard-working employees from the recognition they deserve. Many diligent professionals pour all of their energy into execution. They are masters of their craft. They solve the hard problems. They write the clean code. They build the flawless spreadsheet. Their focus is 100% on the what, delivering the final product. But they communicate very little about the how. They don't talk about the challenges they overcame, the clever solution they devised, or the late night they spent fixing a critical bug. So, from a leader's perspective, the outcome might be visible. A project is completed, but the process, the effort, and the individual heroics behind it remain completely invisible. The person behind the work is a ghost in the machine. Meanwhile, another colleague, let's call them the visible contributor, might have done less of the heavy lifting, but was consistently communicating. They were sending the weekly status reports. They were presenting the updates in the team huddle, and they were the ones answering the manager's questions. Over time, a perception begins to form. Leadership starts to associate the visible contributor with progress, reliability, and leadership potential. The quiet worker is seen as a dependable doer, but the visible one is seen as a driver. When you're the one working quietly in the background, this can feel profoundly unfair. You know you put in more hours. You know you solved the tougher problems. You know your contribution was more substantial. And yet, the person who just talked about the work is getting the praise, the bonus, or the promotion. It can feel like the system is broken, rewarding style over substance. But it's crucial to understand that the system isn't always evaluating effort directly, because it can't. It is evaluating what it can clearly observe and measure. And communication is one of the most powerful and visible signals inside any organization. Speaking up in a meeting, sending a clear email, or presenting an idea are all tangible, observable actions. The deep, focused work you do alone at your desk is by its very nature intangible and unobserved by most. This doesn't mean the loudest person is always the most capable or the most deserving. Far from it. We've all encountered people whose confidence far outweighs their competence. But it does explain why they are often noticed first and remembered most. They are providing the easy-to-read signals that busy leaders rely on to make judgments. They are making their value easy to see. So, what's the deeper lesson here for all of us who want to do great work and be recognized for it? The lesson isn't that you need to become the loudest, most obnoxious person in the room. It's not about talking just for the sake of talking. The lesson is that execution alone is not enough. Great work, combined with great communication, is the winning formula. Your work has value, but if that value remains invisible, it's easily misunderstood, underestimated, or even credited to someone else. This isn't because your colleagues or managers are trying to ignore you. It's because organizations are complex, and they depend on clear signals to understand what's actually happening on the ground. Think of your work as a product, and your communication as its marketing. You could build the most amazing product in the world, but if nobody knows it exists, if nobody understands what it does, or why it's special, it will fail. Your career works in a similar way. You need to become a storyteller for your own work. This means learning to articulate your progress, explain your decisions, share your insights, and yes, ensure that the right people know about the great things you're accomplishing. So, if you've ever found yourself frustrated, wondering why the person who talks the most seems to get all the attention, take a step back. It may not be that their work is inherently better or more important than yours. It may simply be that their signals are clearer, louder, and easier for the organization to read. Once you truly recognize how visibility shapes perception, it changes everything. You stop seeing the workplace as a mysterious or unfair system and start understanding the unspoken rules of the game. You realize that your voice is one of the most powerful tools you have, not just for doing the work, but for making sure that work gets the recognition it deserves. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights on navigating your career.